session, but before that, we have Professor Dr. Yusuf Balcı. He is the third session's chair, but he has to participate at a funeral right now. But before that, he wants to speak with us with his speech. Yes, please.
Assalamu alaikum. Dear brothers and sisters, this is an extraordinary speech. Normally, I would be the chair of the next session. However, our vice rector knows one of our colleagues, and of course, Professor Necdet and other colleagues. My close friend, Professor Yusuf Tuna, he passed away just yesterday or the day before night, and his funeral is today after the Zuhur prayer from Fatih Mosque. So some of our friends who wish to be here as well could not attend here, but I had to come. But I have to leave earlier, so I apologize for that, and I request your prayers to Professor Yusuf and all of our professors who passed away, like Professor Sabahat Zaim, who was the main initiators, one of the founders of Islamic economics, Islamic finance, and I am one of the lucky persons who I was his first assistant that he recruited to the Istanbul University after my graduation. So we wish Rahmah, Allah's blessing be upon on all of those our professors who passed away. I wish a success in the meetings, and I thank you for coming, especially from those speakers from abroad, and the speakers who present papers here or deliver speeches. And I apologize again, and I wish you a good, healthy, successful meeting. Thanks.
Thank you for your speech, Professor Yusuf Balcı. Now we have first session. We invite our Vice Rector, Professor Dr. Elçin Aykaç to chair the session. We have 4 presenters in this session. Sorry for my pronunciation, but Sitiye Yuningsi, Detinur Fadilla, Sudarma Van Samidi, and Asri Noor Rahmi from Indonesia. Please take your seats. Please.
Dear guests, our conference chair, first of all, I want to also thank you for coming here and being with us. This is our first session today after the keynote speakers and welcome speeches. The first session of 20th Foundation of Islamic Finance Conference, and as you know, our theme is Green Finance and Islamic Finance Challenges. In our first session, we have 4 participants. I also want to thank all of them, our participants, for their, we will listen their valuable speeches, valuable presentations. I will just go through because our program is also, we are a little bit late. Each participant will have 10 minutes. I want them to wrap up their presentation in 10 minutes, and at the end of the session, if it's suitable for you also, at the end of the session we can get the questions and answers for all participants for time consuming. Thank you very much. Our first participant, first presenter is Ms. Siti. Maybe it's better if you say surname, say your surname, because I don't want to. City is okay. I don't want to pronounce it wrongly. Her presentation name is Competition Between Islamic and Conventional Banks, Its Effects to Credit Risk and Liquidity Risk, Empirical Study in Developed and Developing Countries. We will have a, I think, comparison for those countries. Before she starts, I also want to thank her for this valuable presentation. Thank you. The floor is yours, but if you want, you can also use our computer.
Yes, I also have a presentation material.
Yes, yes. If you want, you can sit or take it.
Soalnya lihatnya. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning for Mr. and Mrs. Thank you for the opportunity for me to present our research. It is FSA research, Financial Service Authority research, Indonesia. I am from Indonesia, or called Otoritas Jasa Keuangan. As mentioned before, that our topic is about competition between conventional and Sharia bank and its effect in credit risk and liquidity risk. Okay, the agenda, maybe it's short because I see we have just 14 minutes. We will talk about background, literature review, research objective, data and methodology, analysis, and conclusion and recommendations. That the background is we know there are two theories regarding competition exists, is competition fragility or competition stability. So the competition fragility view assume that the bank in excessive competitions are less concentrated, will erode the bank market power. In the competition stability theory, emphasize that the greater banking stability as the result of increasing bank competitions. So we will measure the competition divide into two mainstream, is structural approach or non-structural approach. And we also analyze about the crisis COVID-19 effect as a dummy variable to the behavior of bank and also their impact on banking risk. That we also know that any differences between conventional and Sharia, the most important is Sharia bank based on sale-based transactions, profit and loss sharing. So it's different from conventional bank, which allow the principal amount of loan and also not prohibited in such kind of product. Yeah. This is the literature review, and then the research objective is to examine whether competition is associated with stability or fragility, and also investigate that competition between conventional and Sharia bank, and examine the effect, if exists, the effect of profitability, efficiency, size, innovation to credit risk in the conventional and also Sharia bank. And the research also examine the effect, profitability, capital, loan loss provision of balance sheet to liquidity risk. And it's to distinguish the effect of bank categories. In here we divide to big bank and small bank. Big bank is more than 1 trillion $1 million US, a small bank under that. And then the last one is to examine the impact of macroeconomic factors such as GDP, inflation, and also the crisis. The variable operations, non-performing loans as a dependent variable, and loan to deposit as dependent variable to liquidity risk. Non-performing loan is variable to credit risk. And also bank-specific variable, any cost efficiency, and also diversification, non-interest income, profitability with return on asset, and also bank size. This is the others. And the data, we see this, the analysis that in all our sample, big data, we have two categories, big banks and small banks. Three categories exists a negative result between bank competition and credit risk, and significant positive between competition and stability. Stability, we use a Z-score. This is show a pattern of competition stability. It means that the more bank compete each other, so the finance industry more stable. Why? Because our market tend to monopoly, then free competition is tend to monopoly or oligopoly, so that if they compete each other, it's better. And then for credit risk, for all sample, cost efficiency and learner index as a proxy of competition have significant positive effect on credit risk. And then probability, loan ratio, and GDP has a significant negative effect to credit risk. For big bank, cost efficiency, inflation, and competition is significant positive effect on credit risk. But profitability, bank size, GDP, and Islamic dummy have significant effect on credit risk. However, the profitability ratio only effect when there is market competition in large bank or big bank, while GDP, gross domestic product, only has significant negative effect when there is no crisis and there is direct market competition. And the small bank show that cost efficiency and learner index have significant positive on credit risk, diversification, profitability, loan to asset ratio, and GDP significant negative effect on credit risk. However, GDP only if there is no crisis, only significant if there is in the no crisis dummy. And then the analysis, empirical results show that full sample, big and small bank indicate competition stabilization, as I mentioned before. Equity ratio, bank size, and loan to asset ratio, significant positive effect on liquidity risk, LDR. It means that if equity rise, so the risk of liquidity goes down. Positive. If the equity bank size is rise, go up, so that the risk in liquidity also go up. But the capital adequacy ratio, learner index, it means competition and also off balance sheet. To liquidity risk have significant negative. It means if the capital ratio or off balance sheet or competition goes up, the liquidity risk will goes down. For in big sample, bank size, loan to asset ratio, GDP significant positive, learner index significant negative. For the small bank, similar to full sample, that the equity bank size means lot to make increasing liquidity risk. Empirical and managerial, in our research also find out that the big Sharia bank are less risky than big conventional bank. But on the other hand, a small Sharia bank pretend riskier when it's compared to small conventional bank. in supporting competition stability view tends to be monopolistic in the full sample, exhibiting increasing credit risk when it's more compete. And small bank, because for small Sharia bank pretend riskier than small conventional bank, it should be protected that prevent vulnerability. The protected means could be like increasing capital to make them compete to other small banks or compete to the big banks. Conclusion and recommendation. Bank size is significantly affect to reducing credit risk in the big bank group. For that reason, that regulation that encourage bank to increase their size have to be supported, because capital is matter for banking industry. And Sharia bank is proven to have a niche market, especially in big bank. The Sharia bank has its own market. And further, a big Islamic bank less risky than big conventional bank. When we compare to big, in the same group, big bank, compared to the Islamic and conventional, the result exhibit that the big Islamic bank is less risky than big conventional bank. So that's mean good, because it can maintain there in the crisis era. This is because Sharia bank based on equity, participation, and ownership, and they are also free from riba, gharar, and maisir. It is proven that this can reduce credit risk. And then profitability ratio and diversification, product diversification, it can reduce the credit risk. For that reason, regulation have to support bank intermediation and bank diversification product. For liquidity risk, that the significant variable is equity ratio, and off balance sheet significant only for full bank and small bank, but for big bank it's not significant effect. And bank size in the all sample group is very determine the result. So size in bank is very important. And capital is only affect to the full bank, but for big bank and full bank, when big and small is all together to exercise, but if they the different exercise is not significant. And loan to asset ratio in the all sample group is very important. GDP is important for big bank only. Inflation is effect in the small bank only. And for learner is competition in full bank and big group. But for small bank, competition is not so much effect. And the significant effect of bank size to liquidity risk is aligned with some previous research. The smaller and the larger banks, the smaller the bank, sorry. So the higher the liquidity risk, any mistake here. The smaller of the bank, the higher for the liquidity risk. And small conventional bank have a higher liquidity risk than a small Sharia bank. The loan to asset ratio indicate to increase liquidity risk for all samples, big bank, small bank. So the regulation need that to regulate maximum percentage limit for large as big and small bank in order to control liquidity risk, so to avoid bankruptcy. That is all my presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you also. You use your time very well. Our next, as I told you before, it's better if we have the questions and answers at the end of the session. Our next presentation is again from Indonesia. Deti Nurfadilla. The name of her presentation is Digital Readiness of Islamic Rural Banks in the COVID-19 Pandemic. So it's an important issue as well. Empirical evidence from Indonesia. We are listening for you, your presentation. Thank you very much.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for the organizing committee for giving us an opportunity to present our paper. Thank you to the Rector of Istanbul Commerce University. Our topic is digital readiness of Islamic rural banks in the COVID-19 pandemic, empirical evidence from Indonesia. And we would like to thank the Ministry of Research and Technology for giving us research grants to conduct this research. And this is actually one part of the whole research process. And I am Deti Nurfadilla as the first authors, and the second Suryaman Samidi and Professor Wiwi Mardawiyah Daryanto. We are from IPMI International Business School. This research idea actually comes from the issues of digitalization during COVID-19 pandemic, where we found that the majority of people have the changes in their preference from traditional to online access, especially in using the financial transaction and also financial services. And we also receive data from the Financial Services Authority that the current pandemic, this pandemic actually has increased the intense competition in Islamic financial industry in Indonesia, and I also believe that it also happened in other part of the world, especially in the Islamic rural banks. So in Indonesia, we have Islamic rural banks. It is one of the banking industry that promotes financial services to small and medium enterprises, as well as to farmers, community rural, and also those who are who can't get an opportunity to get an access from the traditional financial services like banking industry. So these Islamic rural banks, they receive a massive competition from a large banking, especially from the fintech and also the digital banks, as they start to exist in Indonesia since the pandemic. And the government also give support to the acceleration of digital transformations through various types of technologies such as machine learning, artificial intelligence, big data, and also the Internet of Things. But then the main question is, are the employees or the human resource ready to adopt with the digital transformations? So the study actually wants to know whether to analyze the impact between various factors that can contribute to the digital readiness of the Islamic rural banks in Indonesia. And we also want to give a new contribution to the study that we include the new variables, COVID-19, and also perceived social influence as one of the variables that has not been exposed by previous studies, and to fill the gap in the literature of digital readiness. And here are the literature review, just for a short, that the study actually expand the technology acceptance model. And here are the several variables that we use in the study, perceived ease of use, because we want to know whether the digital tools or digital technology that applied by financial industry actually helps the human resource or the digital talents in Islamic rural banks. And we also want to know whether they perceive the digital tools or technology is one of the useful tools to increase their performance. And also the other variable is perceived social influence. We want to know whether influence from another financial industry like fintech, digital bank, and also the banking industry, traditional banking industry, can encourage the Islamic rural banks to improve their digitalizations. And then the other variable is the attitude. We want to know, we believe that the positive attitudes among the employees would lead to the better performance in the organizations. And then the competency is to know whether the skills that are very essential, very important for the daily activities of the Islamic rural bank's operational activities can lead to digital readiness as well. And the COVID-19 is one of our novelty. So here are our conceptual framework. As we can see that we have 6 hypotheses. For hypothesis 1 is for perceived ease of use towards the attitude, and then hypothesis 2 is perceived usefulness towards attitude, and then hypothesis 3 is perceived social influence toward the attitudes, and then attitudes and competencies towards digital readiness, and COVID-19 towards digital readiness. And this is our methodology that we use the quantitative method by collecting data through a random sampling approach. And we collected for about 378 samples from the Islamic rural banks in the Java and non-Java islands. And then we distribute the questionnaires through online tools for about 22 questions, including the exclude the screening questions. And we also conduct the study for 2 parts. For the first one is the pilot project, and then the last one is the continuation from the pilot project. And then we use the same PLS for the data analysis method, and we took several steps to analyze the data until we finally come up with the results. And these are the results. So majority of the respondents are male, for 53.3% with more than 11 working experience, and then 80.6% of them are undergraduate degree, and then 60% of them earn for about below 5 million rupiah. And then when we ask them about the digital tools that they are already familiar, they mentioned that they usually just use the Microsoft Office and banking apps. But then in the future, they really want to know more about web development and also social media, which I believe that's also one of the parts to promote their products. And we also conducted several robustness tests. And once we test that, we found the results are reliable and valid. And then we also test the multicollinearity, and we found that all the value is below 5. And here are our structural model. So by looking into this model, so we found that the attitude is 83.5% can be used as a it can shows that 83.5% for the R-square is considered as good, and then for digital readiness is 80.1%. And here for the results. So from the whole hypothesis, we found that the perceived ease of use and perceived usefulness have a positive impact towards attitude, where the p-values are all about, below the 0.05, then we accept their hypothesis. And then for the perceived social influence, it's we reject the hypothesis because the p-value is higher than 0.05, while the rest of the hypothesis testing, such as attitude toward digital readiness, competencies toward attitude, and then COVID towards digital readiness is all accepted. By looking into the data, we believe that the Islamic rural banks are actually aware with the trends of digitalizations, and they also actually want to have move towards the better technology framework in their company. But then the issues, when I also interview one of the Islamic rural banks in Indonesia, the issues is actually there is a separate regulation that that become a barrier for them to develop the digitalization in their company. And then we also can conclude that we also can see that the competencies is really needed for them to absorb the digital technology faster. And then the employee in digital in Islamic rural banks, or our respondents, believe that digital technology is somewhat easy to use and also useful for them to increase their performance. And then we also believe that the top management have to really identify which skills and knowledge are appropriate for the future based on their positions, starting from the junior until the top management. And then this is one of the things that we really glad that COVID-19 also have a positive impact towards digitalizations that need to be many parties, not only government, but also the practitioners, the Islamic Rural Bank itself, the academics, and others to really promote, support the digitalizations in these sectors. And to conclude that, PEU, or perceived ease of use, perceived usefulness, and competency have shown a positive effect. And then perceived social influence has no effect on attitude, while attitude and competencies play important roles for the digital readiness and the COVID itself. And we believe that this study can give a reference for the practitioners about which factors that could be used for them to improve their strategy, so that the human resource in their in these sectors can have a better digital readiness, like ready to adopt the better technology in the future. And we also believe that there's a need for collaboration between a government, Islamic rural bank, and customer itself to create a better ecosystem. And it also have practical and also theoretical implications that the study can bring a contribution as a reference for both, and also can fill the gap in the literature. And the policymaker also can use this study for regulating the digital transformations in Indonesia. But then we believe we have some limitation in the study, that we encourage further research to expand their scope of this research, not only in Java and on Java Island. Maybe can compare based on the types of provinces in Indonesia, because we have 34 provinces, which makes the data becomes unique. And data collection also can be mixed between quantitative and also qualitative. And for the variables, so can follow can fill the gap in the next studies. So I think that's it for my presentations. Thank you very much. I hope that this presentation can improve our knowledge. Thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you very much, Ms. Tati Nurfadillah. It was a valuable presentation, informative presentation. Thank you. Our third presentation is again from Indonesia, third presenter. He's Sudarmawan Samidi. His presentation is Does Learning Program Enhance Digital Talent Development Output? Evidence from Islamic Rural Banks in Indonesia. Yes, we are listening to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, everyone. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you, first of all, to Prof. Dr. Nekdet Sensoy, the Chief of Committee of this conference, yeah, and also Prof. Dr. Muhammad Arif, and also to Rector of Istanbul Ticaret University, yeah, Prof. Dr. Yücel Oğurlu, yeah. And ladies and gentlemen, today I will present our research papers, yeah, titles, Does Learnings Program Enhance Digital Talents Development Output? Evidence from Islamic Rural Banks in Indonesia. Actually, this research funded by Minister of Research, Culture, Education of Republic of Indonesia. I am Sudarman Samidi and my colleagues Deti Nur Fadila and also Prof. Wiwi Mardawiyah Daryanto. We are from IPMI International Business School at Jakarta. Okay, from previous presentation is talking about the digital readiness. Yeah, now we talk about learning programs. That means, you know, technology combined with the competition and globalization is driving skill revolution. So that, you know, give the opportunities and challenge to Islamic rural banks, especially in Indonesia. In Indonesia, there are three types of Islamic banks. The first is Islamic commercial banks, and the second one is Sharia business unit, or we call dual banking system, and another one is Islamic rural banks. When we talk about the existence of fintechs and digital banks in the pandemic era has changed the customer needs, yeah, and expectation of banking products and services, which they prefer faster services. So this is the reason why we try to examine the effect of formal learnings and social learnings and also experiential learnings on digital talents, attributes, and skills, and how it affects digital talent development outputs. Based on the study conducted by World Economic Forum 2020, added that the demand for digital talents is increasing, yeah, for specific jobs or roles, yeah, such as big data, artificial intelligence, yeah, business development, and also machine learning, digital marketing and strategy, business development, and risk management. And this research combined the three types of learning, namely formal, social, and experiential, in which majority of previous study only focus on one or two those type of learnings. And then based on the previous literature, the key development experience of successful managers and develop a learning model or design based on 70%, 20%, and 10%. Yeah, as we know, formal learning, yeah, 10%. It is learning activity carried out with the lecture in certain room or place, and also it can be done by utilizing information technology such as e-learnings, yeah, and also it can provide theoretical foundation for materials or competency that useful for building the participant frame of mind for the next stage. And another learnings we call social learnings, which is 20%. Yeah. It is sharing common interests that enables for the exchange of skills and knowledge, yeah, through the interaction. For example, it's students from the background and experience of others, as well as from observing one another's, yeah. And another learnings, which is experiential learnings, yeah. It is correct, 70%, yeah. So experiential learnings theory from called 1984 state that learning is process of creating knowledge through the transformation of experience. It is an integrated learning activity in the workplace where participation are giving the opportunity to do certain job so that they can get the practical experience. And then digital talent attribute and skill. As we know, the area of globalization require us, yeah, and require the organization to change and develop from conventional methods, yeah, to knowledge sharing and transfer in the context of transformation. And the attribute of talent and skills, which include action orientation, communication, creativity, innovation, critical judgment, and etc. Yeah, and technical function expertise. So when we talk about the digital talent development output, yeah, learning program is aims to meet the basic needs of the organization, which are pursued by providing certain competencies for employees. Yeah. And learning program also can be used to develop talent and skill attributes such as problem solving, analytical communication, research, time management skill. Yeah. And in particular, analytic and time management skill are important predictors, yeah, of company overall learning experience, yeah, based on the previous study. And this is our, based on the literatures, yeah, from the previous study. So we developed the hypothesis and conceptual frameworks. Hypothesis number one is formal learning has significant effects on digital talent attribute and skills. And then social learning has significance, yeah, effect on digital talent attribute and skill. And also experiential learning towards the digital talent attribute and skill. And formal learning has significant effect on digital talent development output. And social learning has significant effect on digital talent development output. And the last one is digital talents attribute and skill has significant effect on digital talent development output. So this is the conceptual framework of this research. So the research method, yeah, for this research, we use quantitative method, yeah, random sampling approach, and also Islamic Rural Bank in Indonesia. We took sample from Java and Java Island and non-Java islands, yeah, 404 respondents, yeah, from 161 Islamic rural banks in Indonesia. The data collection through the online survey, we use a 5-point Likert scale for 23 questions. And the data analysis that we use, structural equation modeling, yeah, PLS, with path modeling, yeah, for step for analysis, we do goodness fit model, reliability and validity test, and multi-cognitive test, and also bootstrapping technique for testing hypothesis. And the last step is descriptive for respondent profile, 95% significant level. And this is the result. And for our research, yeah, the most respondent is 57.9% is male, yeah. The rest is female, yeah. And 81.8% is bachelor degree, most of millennial, yeah. And the income is 60.5% is more than 5 million rupiah. And their experience is more than 28.4% is 3 to 5 years working experience. So in reliability and validity test, value of Cronbach alpha coefficient is between 0.852, yeah, to 0.911, and value of Ershow A is between 0.852 to 0.912, yeah, and value of composite reliability is between 0.900 and 0.932, and value of average variance extract is between 0.672 towards 0.720, yeah, and multi-coordinated test is VIF value is below than 5. And then this is the result for the structural model. Yeah, the R-square value for the talent attribute and skill is 0.857, and talent development output is more than 0.870, which consider is a good. Yeah. This is this is the hypothesis testing. Yeah, we only got one rejected. Yeah, formal learning towards the talent development output is not significant. Yeah, because p value is higher than 0.05. Okay, based on the analyzing the data that we got, yeah, it gives an understanding that formal learning is needed, yeah, in order to improve the employees' skill through various steps, yeah, such as classroom, seminar, webinar, workshop, and e-learning course, yeah, and also social learning is defined as process where employee in Islamic rural bank could make some change, yeah, and adapt with the new digital environment where they seek their relatives and colleagues also perform well, yeah, using the digital technology. And also it found that experiential learning have significant effect on digital talent development output, where it increased the employees' ability to adapt with the new change. Yeah, as we know, we have technology changes and demography change. Yeah, the way that you know, the hybrid working models and others, you know, disruption happens. Yeah, and also, you know, organizations should address the skill needed to achieve specific competency. As I mentioned earlier, it's about big data, artificial intelligence, yeah, digital marketing and strategy. Because now traditional banking is move forward to digital banking. Yeah, in Indonesia we have many digital banking right now. Yeah, and many traditional branches, yeah, close because of digital bank. So digital banks is you know, big in Indonesia. And then the conclusion and recommendation, this study specifically examine how learning program provided by Islamic rural banks, yeah, may affect the absorption of digital skill and digital talent output. And also the study found that those three types of learning, yeah, which is experiential learnings, formal learning, and social learnings, yeah, have significant effect on the digital talent attribute and skill, but only formal learning is found that have no significant effect on digital talent development output, because, you know, as we know that millennial right now, you know, they all would like to learn, you know, from online, yeah, rather than sitting on the class, yeah, faced with the lectures, yeah. Because happened during pandemic 2 years back, you know, we have conduct, you know, many classes online, yeah. And then the theoretical implication, the finding of this study also support the notion that digital talent development output is valid and reliable. Yeah. However, while evaluating the learning program, digital talent skill in Islamic rural bank must be considered. As I mentioned, like, you know, like artificial intelligence, big data, and learning machine, and on and so on. Yeah. And also there is a limited previous study that focus on Islamic rural banks, yeah, from the human resource perspective. The practical implication for this research, it will also help the managers, especially, you know, human resource development, yeah, division department in Islamic banks, yeah, to formulate their recruitment strategy, yeah, allowing managers to identify digital talents to specific role and function. And although this research has a limitation in sample size, need to make bigger and data collection method, and also of the variables. I think, thank you. May Allah bless us with knowledge and wisdom. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you very much, Sudarmawan Samidi. It's also an informative presentation. Thank you for this. Now we have one more presenter, Asri Noor Rahmi. Her presentation's name is Factors Affecting of Non-Performing Financing in Islamic Bank in Indonesia, Malaysia, Philippines, and Brunei Darussalam for the period 2016 to 2020. Again, our presenter is from Indonesia. The floor is yours. Thank you very much.
Okay, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Okay, let me introduce myself. My name is Asri Rahmi. I'm from Faculty of Economic and Business, University of Al-Azhar, Indonesia. And before I start my presentation, I would like to thanks to Professor Dr. Nehdet Sensor of the Chief of the Conference, and then Prof. Arif from Sunway University, and Prof. Dr. Yazil Oğurlu, Rector of Istanbul Commerce University. Okay, I will start my presentation. I would like present my research paper with the title Factor Affecting of Non-Performing Financing of Islamic Bank in Indonesia, Malaysia, Philippines, Brunei Darussalam, and Thailand, period 2016 until 2020. Okay, this research is basic. During the COVID-19 pandemic, various industries experienced significant negative impact on company operation. One of the industry affected is the financial and banking industry. Islamic Bank is required to avoid non-performing financing, NPF, that is too high because it can have an impact on the business continuity of Islamic banks. You can see from this graph of NPF for Islamic Bank for the 2014 until 2020 period in Indonesia. The increase in the ratio of non-performing financing NPF can be seen directly through the decrease in net income and total asset of Islamic Bank. The factor that influenced the increase in NPF in Islamic Bank, namely return on asset or ROA, bank size, gross domestic product, GDP, inflation, net interest margin or NIM, financing to deficit ratio, FDR, capital adequacy ratio, and diversification. Okay, this is my research question. Does diversification, CAR, FDR, ROA, NIM, bank size, GDP, and inflation affect the NPF of Islamic Bank in Indonesia, Malaysia, Philippines, Brunei Darussalam, and Thailand? My research objective is to analyze the factor that influence the increase in non-performing financing in Islamic Bank in Indonesia, Malaysia, the Philippines, and Brunei Darussalam. This is my literature review. I took my literature review from Anticipated Income Theory, Non-Performing Financing, Financing Diversification, CAR, FDR, Bank Size, NIM, Return on Asset, and Gross Domestic Product or GDP. The previous research from my paper is, the first is factor affecting NPF in Islamic Bank in Indonesia, Malaysia, Philippines, and Brunei. And then the influence of GDP, inflation, exchange rate, CAR, FDR, Islamic banking in Indonesia, and credit risk in dual banking system. And then factor affecting of non-performing financing, Islamic Bank in Indonesia, Malaysia, Philippines, and Brunei. And then analysis of the effect micro and macro variable on NPF of Islamic banking in Indonesia. And this is my hypothesis development. I have the egg hypothesis development, and you can see from this diversification, CAR, FDR, bank size, net interest margin, GDP, inflation, and ROA. This is my research methodology. This research is descriptive quantitative with the aims of knowing the effect of each independent variable on dependent variable. The population in this study, namely Islamic Bank in Indonesia, Malaysia, the Philippines, and Brunei Darussalam. Sampling technique used in this research is purposive sampling technique with this criteria sample. The first one is registered with bank focus and then publishing the bank annual report for the 2060 until 2020 period. And the third, have complete data related to variable. The data analysis technique used is the parametric statistical method, while the hypothesis testing method in this study is multiple linear regression method using statistical package for the social science or SPSS. This is my operational variable. Then this is the result from the coefficient of determination test. And next, from the simultan F test. And from the partial T test. And this is my implication managerial. My implication of this research is the need for improvement of policy of regulation in each Islamic bank, because the better policy and regulation that are drawn up and implemented can minimize the increase in NPF in Islamic bank operation. By improving policy and regulation, it is possible to increase the internal control of each Islamic bank, both large and small Islamic bank. There is a need for standardization in the provision of financing so that there are no more small Islamic banks that experience liquidation and large credit risk, but of Indonesia, Malaysia, the Philippines, and Brunei Darussalam. And this is the conclusion from my research. Based on the result of the diversification t-test calculation, CAR, bank size, and ROA have a significant negative effect of NPF. But in addition, the net interest margin or NIM has a significant positive effect on FVF, while the financial to deficit ratio FDR and gross domestic product GDP and inflation have no significant effect. For further research, it is recommended to add other variables that can affect the occurrence of non-NPF in Islamic banking. And in addition, it is also recommended to expand the sample so that the study get maximum result. Okay, that's my presentation. Thank you for all. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Asri Rahmi. It's also an informative presentation. In our first session, we have 4 valuable presenters from Indonesia, and we have 4 presentations. Now, if you have questions, we can take them. Please first introduce yourself and which presenters you are asking your question, if you tell.
Okay, we have 3 types. Yeah, the first is Islamic commercial banks that we call in Bahasa Bank Umum Syariah, and another one is Sharia business unit. That means, you know, like Windows. Yeah, yeah. And another one is Islamic rural banks. Yeah, there is a 3 type of Islamic banks in Indonesia. Most of the biggest share is Islamic banks, yeah, Islamic commercial banks, yeah, yeah.
My second question is to Ms. Rahmi, related to your model. Your dependent variable is from Islamic banking, yes. Am I right? And NPF, and your independent variables are from commercial banking.
Yes. Yes. Okay. Oh, question? Oh, you just to make sure. Oh, okay. You just want to make sure independent and variable. Yes. Ya, oh maksudnya dia bilang, iya betul udah.
NPL dari Islamic Bank.
Iya, ya. Yes, it's correct. NPF I take from the Islamic banking in 4 country: Indonesia, Malaysia, Philippines, and Brunei Darussalam. Okay.
While the mic is getting ready, I just want to make some broad comment about banking studies using the example. Okay? Now, we have done
from central bank. Their job is to find out how the banking system works. Fine, very good. It's an excellent 3 papers. They look at the, what we call, qualitative side of banking. Excellent results. And we must applaud them for bringing it to the Indonesian audience. From the international banking system, that's not an important issue. For Indonesia, it's an important issue. 3 banking types. And they claim, I'm not sure about it, that Islamic commercial bank is the lion's share of the market. I don't believe. So there are some errors there. They can check all that. But it's a good there's a good papers. The last paper is about non-performing loan, a very old topic, which is exhaustively studied. And there are many more papers than what she cited. Now, what I want to make is a comment. Your paper is very good. It's relevant for Southeast Asia. Now, in Islamic banking, most of the studies, the old type of studies, what is driving the risk? What is driving the non-performing loan? You know, what are the factors affecting banking? This is an old question. This has been 1,000 times repeated. What we don't know are 3 important things about banking. Number 1, we don't know the efficiency of banks. The 134 studies of the European banks where they showed that the efficiency, profit maximization, cost minimization, whatever model you use, European banks have very high efficiency. Nobody has studied efficiency except one paper. We wrote it many, many years ago. It's a published paper. And the efficiency of an Islamic bank versus mainstream banks. I like to call it mainstream. The word conventional means old, old age. I don't like that word. All my writing, I use the word. I would advise them also to call it not conventional. The mainstream. They are the mainstream. Islamic finance only occupies 5% of the entire financial system of the world. So we are beating our Islamic bank without knowing the comparative efficiency. So I think that should be the number 1 priority for scholars. They are very highly trained scholars. For them to reach top journals and to contribute at the world level, first thing they have to do is efficiency. And there are 2 models, accounting efficiency, okay? Under that, there are so many things. Non-performing loan also falls under that. But they have to compare with the mainstream banking. No point looking at Apple only. You've got to look at the apple of different quality in every country. No point looking at the Islamic banks alone. You don't learn anything. That's not scientific. So you've got to compare them with the mainstream banking system, how efficient they are. As I mentioned, European banks have got a very high efficiency rate. Of course, the highest efficiency rate is the US banking. After Obama reformed the banking, the competition there was among 15,000 banks. It's free for all. Every day some banks are going bankrupt. Why can't they go bankrupt? But in our part of the world, we believe in concentrated banking because it's so important that 4 banks and the politician link themselves with the banks and then change rules. I think that's a bad model. So the first author talked about the competition. There are 2 perfect models. Learner is one of them. So the second thing I want to talk about, that we have to look at mainstream versus Islamic bank, whether the competition is perfect or not. Most small-sized banking countries are inefficient. Look at Malaysia. They talk about efficiency. A recent study published in the Journal of Economic Studies 3 years ago, we show in 2 papers, it's awfully inefficient in terms of competition. Okay? There are two models. One is learner. The other one is the Pantha-Rose model. So these models can tell you comparatively how efficient they are in terms of competition. The first one is productivity. Second one. The last one, the third one, intermediation efficiency. There's no study in Islamic finance on intermediation efficiency. Zero. And these three areas are highly powerful theories. And I don't know why young people, just as bright as me, as well as Sensoi, are not looking at more important issues rather than, looking at national level studies. So we can't build a body of knowledge for Islamic finance if we don't link ourselves, that's my last word, to the central theme of banking. $5 trillion Islamic finance. Non-Islamic finance is 20 times bigger than that. So we got to contextualize, right? Otherwise, our knowledge is not complete. I'm sorry to be a little bit not encouraging, but this is the direction we have to go. These young people must reach top journal. If you want to go to top journal, that's the kind of question you ask, theoretical question, right? Then you get published, and we build a bigger set of knowledge. I want to compliment them for what they are doing for Indonesia, but at the same time, I want to tell the authors today, at this moment, as well as any others, we got to pitch our act at a much, much higher academic level. Then only we can create more relevant knowledge. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for your questions, and also we should thank Professor Mohammed Arif for those valuable comments, and we have the chance to think about our studies design, and before we start our analysis, we should think about our studies design also. Thank you very much. Thank you for our 4 presentations. They have valuable presentations. Thank you for being with us. Now I think we have a coffee break.
Before
yes.
that we have certifications.
After our
Yes, after certification.
yes, after we give certificates to our presenters, we will have a coffee break.
I will talk about it. I'll talk about it and send that.
Maybe you can send by email or WhatsApp.
Probably by email.
By email, okay. Maybe I'll
I
give
will
you.
have all your mails. Okay. I will talk about it.
Thank you.
Welcome. And Necdet Şansoy Hoca will present the certificates for Elçin Hoca. Sorry for tight schedule. We have to continue with second session. Yes.
Oh, thank you. Şuraya git. Let's go there. Prof, also you come.